Well, what's going on, everybody? My name is Eric, and welcome to the Nomads Sports Podcast. We don't actually have a formal name for this thing yet. I'm sure we'll come up with one before it's all said and done. We're going to give a quick introduction, everybody. My name is Eric.
My name's James.
My name is Tom.
My name's Zach.
And, we're going to be coming at you guys about every 2 weeks or so, doing another one of these sports podcasts. Something along, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Something that'll be nice to talk about sports, football, baseball, hockey, basketball. Starting off, training camp just kind of started up for football. And all the teams, first preseason just gone by, training camp stuff, and it has been definitely an interesting training camp.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Well, training camp started a while ago. We're kind of in the midst of the preseason, and I saw something funny the other day. Someone said that the preseason it's like a parallel universe because the Browns won. I guess just because the Browns won, it's a parallel universe now.
Yeah. Oh, well, the Jaguars beat the Jaguars beating New England.
Beat the Patriots, but the Patriots didn't play anyone, so I don't really count that one.
No one does.
So,
yeah, the Patriots fan in the chat.
Yeah, the Patriots fan over there. So
I think we should all announce our fandom before we get going.
yeah,
Okay.
probably. I'm a Redskins, Wizards, Orioles, and Capitals.
Okay, I'm Redskins, Nationals, Wild, and Timberwolves.
Patriots, Los Angeles Kings, Los Angeles Lakers, New York Yankees.
Yeah, all the teams that were good in the mid 2000s.
Baltimore Ravens football and Duke men's baskball.
And then he just kind of hops around players outside of that.
LeBron.
Yeah, then it's LeBron James.
Exactly.
LeBron.
James.
So with training camp underway and everything, anyone seen anything really interesting?
Yeah, I want to make a few notes about the first week of the preseason because there's been some interesting rookies making their debuts and a couple of controversial ones. And the two that really pop out to me are Trubisky and Kaiser. The two kind of controversial rookie quarterbacks because they were taken so high in the draft, and half the people were saying that Kaiser shouldn't even come out this year.
Mm-hmm.
So in the first game of the season, the Bears they sent out Glennon for the first series. They did say Glennon was going to start, so it makes sense. So Glennon comes out, and first series he goes 2 for 8, 20 yards, and throws a pick six. So, and then the very next thing, the very next drive, we got Trubisky coming in, and he played for a couple quarters, and he ended the game 18 for 25, 166 yards, 1 touchdown, and the biggest shocker, no picks.
And the one touchdown to Mr. Salsa himself, Victor Cruz.
He's back.
He's back.
He was gone for a while, but he's back. But yeah, with all this hype, and you drafted Trubisky so high, you gave up so much for him, and I know they picked up Glennon to be the starter, but what do you guys think? I'm going to open the floor here. Do you think Trubisky should start week 1, or do you think he's still going to be held?
I didn't really think this was a quarterback draft. I think he should sit. Glennon's a capable stopgap. He can probably go for this season, maybe one more season, but if you're sitting your number 1 overall pick for longer than a season, you didn't do something right as a GM.
And I agree with that, but if Trubisky continues to dominate the preseason and Glennon continues to struggle, can you really sit him?
You don't want him to get shell-shocked, really. You don't want a situation like I'm not sure. There's not a lot of comparable quarterbacks what Trubisky's in because he's essentially the number 1 guy and he's going to sit. Not a lot of number 1 guys get told that, but you don't want a situation where he gets shell-shocked in the first week that he plays and because quarterbacks, it's probably 50% talent and 50% mental, and the mental aspect is their confidence in themselves. You don't want a quarterback that's not confident in himself.
Right.
Yeah, you'll have another Jared Goff situation. Do you think
Jared
it's going to happen
Goff.
to Trubisky this year? The same thing that happened to Goff?
I don't think if Trubisky touches one snap in the regular season that's for a competitive snap, that's a mistake by the Bears.
But if Glennon struggles, I mean, he's done pretty well in the regular season. And if he does well in the preseason and Glennon struggles,
Think about the situation that he would come in if Glennon was struggling. What would Trubisky be thinking? Oh, they're going to me now. They're relying on me. They depend on me to make the season come out and be at least mediocre. You put a lot of pressure on a rookie quarterback who played at UNC for what? I think it was somewhere in the teens of number of games that he
So
started.
13 games, yeah.
That's very, very minuscule to what the NFL takes. You have quarterbacks that come in there like who's the last lefty quarterback in the NFL? The guy from Boise State.
God, Kellen Moore?
Yeah, Kellen Moore. You have a guy like him, won a bunch of football games in college, played a lot of games in college, won the most football games in college ever. And guess what? He's not a starting quarterback. You have guys that play tons of games in college and aren't ready for it. He probably had more intangibles than Trubisky, but Trubisky has the prototypical body, prototypical arm, prototypical speed, and you want him to develop and see how the pro game, see how he learns the program, see how he meshes the program.
Yeah, the other thing you have to remember is that what Glennon was going up against, he was playing the Broncos, and they did have some of their starters on their defense, and we all know about the Broncos' defense.
Disgusting.
So you can't really come in and have, Glennon throws a pick six. It's like, oh, it's all over. We need to get rid of Glennon because Trubisky's our man. So Glennon's a good quarterback. He deserves to get a shot at starting, I think. But if he starts struggling, I gotta say you might need to consider putting Trubisky in. It depends how the season's going, though. Like, if you're having a losing season, like, don't bother. But
just a side note about the Broncos defense. Did you guys see the Madden ratings released and they named the top players at each position?
yeah, Von Miller's a 99.
Yeah, Von Miller's 99, and the top two cornerbacks in the NFL based on Madden ranking are Chris Harris Jr. and Aqib Talib. That is absolutely disgusting. They're not overrated. Chris Harris is a shutdown corner, and Aqib Talib is like if D'Angelo Hall just went on an insane streak. Aqib Talib is a gambler, and he gambles well.
Yeah, no, for sure. That Denver defense is absolutely ridiculous.
It's too bad they won't have Ware.
Yeah, that's like the only downside, but everything else is relatively solid, or extremely solid. I shouldn't say relatively.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, moving on to the second quarterback, everyone's favorite New Browns quarterback, Kaiser.
Mr. Kaiser.
Mr. Kaiser, exactly. So we got a little bit. I don't know if it's a quarterback controversy yet. I don't want to call that yet because it's just one preseason game. But Osweiler versus Kaiser. Everyone knows Osweiler's story. Got paid the big money. He kind of flopped in Houston, and then the controversial trade up to Cleveland, and the Browns seem to want him to be the starter. But a similar situation with him happened between. The same thing happened to Osweiler and Kaiser that happened to Trubisky and Glennon. We're going where Osweiler didn't really do anything. He went 6-14, 42 yards and no touchdowns. He didn't throw a pick, so that's kind of a positive. And Kaiser came in and went 11 for 18, 184 yards and a touchdown in that first preseason game. So I think if someone starts out of the two, it definitely should be Trubisky this season. But how long? I'm going to say this. How long do you think it would take for Kaiser to be NFL ready?
I think probably a year and a half. On that Brock Osweiler trade, that was actually an insanely good trade for both teams because the Browns have an abnormal amount of cap space, and they just absorbed Osweiler's contract so they can get that draft pick out of it. Both teams had bad situations. One had a lot of cap space. One had a bad quarterback. And the Browns say, you know what? Hey, let's flip an NBA type deal. You give me the player and the pick, and I'll just take the contract from you. How's that sound?
And then Houston picked up, of course, Deshaun Watson,
who's I think is going to be the best rookie quarterback from this draft.
He has a lot of upside for sure.
That dude's a purebred winner.
Been awfully quiet over there, James. What you got going on?
I'm more thinking that Brock should start for at least 2 years and see what he can give. I think has 2 years left in his career at that.
Do you think Kaiser overtakes him after those 2 years, or?
I think Kaiser's very, very raw. He needs to learn. I agree with James. Probably 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, Kaiser's definitely probably the most controversial pick in the draft. Everyone thought Trubisky was going to be, but I really think Kaiser has to be the most controversial pick in the draft. He was drafted really highly. He was young. He doesn't have a lot of experience. He was on a subpar Notre Dame team. and even his coaching staff and the people that were closest to him said he needed to have at least one more year in college before he came out. He did get paid. He got drafted pretty highly, but I don't think he's anywhere close to being ready.
Didn't he get overtaken by Malik Zaire during the season? Then Malik Zaire got injured.
I think so. I don't really follow Notre Dame football, but it sounds about right. I remember he didn't start a couple games in the beginning. He kind of faded out.
Kaiser was a top prospect coming out of high school, and the dude has immense talent, man. But it's so raw. Trubisky's is raw, but he has a high ceiling because he just has the intangibles with it. Deshaun Kaiser doesn't have the intangibles. He obviously didn't win the starting job in Notre Dame. There might be a him issue, it might be a locker room issue, what have you. But Kaiser, that dude can flat out ball. But you never know. Once a guy gets in the NFL, you never know. He could turn into the next Andrew Luck, or he can turn the next Ryan Leaf, or he can turn the next Johnny Manziel, or what have you.
I never thought Johnny Manziel was going to pan out in the NFL. I called that bust from the beginning.
I said that he was small. I think he had a lot of talent, but he was really undersized.
I think the Browns is just a horrible situation for any quarterback.
Yeah.
You put Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or any Drew Brees back there in Cleveland, nobody wants to play there. Nobody enjoys it there. They have a solid line, but outside of that, you have a wide receiver who can't put down the weed. You have players that don't want to stay. And then you have no-name defenders. Their defense, I can't name one player on their defense.
Is Joe Hayden still there?
Joe Hayden.
Jamie Collins.
Joe Hayden is still there, but he's on the – what's weird is he's athletically and age-wise in the prime of his career, but he's on the down skid.
Yeah, he's been in Cleveland too long.
Yeah. The only player that stands out in Cleveland for the past 10 years has been Joe Thomas. That dude is just stalwart.
Yeah. I still remember when he was drafted, and they showed a picture of him like he was on his phone, like on the shore of his dad.
Yeah.
Like on draft night, and he had to get a phone call and say, "Hey, you were drafted second."
Exactly. He's a great dude. He's a bro.
Yeah,
all right, Eric. What else we got?
Yeah, that's all I got. So.
What draft stories you got, James?
I don't have any draft stories, but I have some injury questions. Do you guys think Cam Newton and Andrew Luck, with their massive surgeries this offseason, are going to be ready for the actual
season?
Because they're not really playing this preseason. Or practicing.
Well, Cam Newton's been getting beaten a lot, so he'll probably ease himself into it, so he'll probably miss a few weeks. But Andrew Luck, man, that dude's a warrior, but the injury he sustained, last year they said was the equivalent of a car crash. That team does not protect their quarterback. That dude, hands down, I don't know if y'all want to debate this, but he is probably the best talent-wise quarterback in the NFL, but he gets no help. Nothing. No help at all. Like, in terms of where his career trajectory is going to go, he's the best quarterback in the league, but the Colts do not help him out. They just leave him out to dry and just hope for the best.
Yeah, I was going to kind of bounce off your point, Zach, is that Luck is probably one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the entire league right now as far as raw talent. You put all the quarterbacks next to each other, and he's going to come as far as raw talent goes. But the Colts just don't – like, they've had him for a long time now. He's off his rookie contract, and they still have done little to nothing in terms of protecting him. They've gotten him some weapons and a veteran halfback to try to take some of the load off, but as evidenced by all his injuries, I think they definitely need to invest in something more to protect the guy. And as far as Cam Newton goes, that dude is one of the toughest quarterbacks, both mentally and physically, I've ever seen in the NFL. To be honest, this guy's built like a linebacker.
Yeah.
So I think coming back from an injury like this is going to be fine for him. The surgery went successfully. He's back throwing. He probably won't start this preseason just to, as a precaution thing. I doubt the team doctors will let him risk it, but he'll definitely be back to the regular season for sure. I think he'll be in form this year. In fact, and the Panthers will be a competitive team.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. As long as they get Mr. Kuechly back.
Yes, Mr. Kuechly. They need him back too. He's like the star of that defense.
He's probably the best linebacker in the NFL, honestly.
Yeah, he's pretty insane.
So we know that you can't obviously make a team in the preseason, especially not in the first week of preseason. Like you were saying, Kaiser and all the rookie quarterbacks have had really good week ones, but it's not enough to make a team. It's not enough to start. But as we have seen, you can definitely lose your starting spot in week one of the preseason. Roberto Aguayo, do y'all agree with him being released? I mean, I feel like he didn't really get a good chance in Tampa Bay. I mean, I understand kickers are obviously really reliable and they're cut more than running backs are. But I was doing some searching and I wanted to talk to you two about it, James and Zach. I read a couple comments on Facebook on the Robert Aguayo release article. And they were saying that on college fields, a lot of the fields are more slanted and the uprights themselves aren't straight. Now, obviously, I haven't checked anything to find out if that was actually true or not, but obviously NFL playing fields are meant to be flat and the uprights are perfectly straight. And the comments, and it was more than one, it was multiple ones, that were saying that it's unusually difficult to readapt yourself to kicking on a fully flat surface versus kicking on a slightly slanted surface. Is that, do y'all know anything about that?
You can go ahead, James.
I just think that obviously the NFL has higher standards than a typical college field would. Everything has to be the same. All the playing conditions have to be the same. It has to be fair. The uprights definitely have to be straight. That's why they have the penalty between the goalposts after a touchdown, because they don't want people messing that up.
Mm-hmm. Bouncing off that, when you're in college, you don't know what you're going to play. You don't know if you're going to play a Division II school at the beginning of the season. You don't know if you're going to play at a team that's built like an NFL team, like an Alabama or something, or Ohio State towards the end of the season. You play on a lot of varying surfaces, and like he said, all the surfaces in the NFL are pretty much, there's nothing, they're indifferent. They don't have any change to them. They're all pretty much the same. The main thing about kicking that I found is it is very, you can be the best kicker in the league, but it's completely mental. It's the mental aspect. You have to be able to, it's repetition. If you're thinking about anything, when you go up there to kick it and you're taking your steps back and you look at the upright and you look at your holder and snapper, and when you nod for them to take that snap, it's completely mental. Your mind has to be clear. If you have anything in your mind, it's going to affect you immensely. And it seems like what the Bucs did was very, very, very asinine by drafting him in the second round, because that puts a lot of pressure on a kicker that doesn't need to be there. Janikowski is another breed, because that dude's just an animal, and he overcame the mental aspect of being a first-round draft pick because he was highly successful at the same school as Roberto Aguayo, but he just an anomaly. But kickers should not be drafted unless they are in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, honestly, no matter how good they are, no matter if they're Steven Gostkowski, Justin Tucker, Mason Crosby, Adam Vinatieri. They should never be drafted early in the draft because, yes, they will win and lose you games, but you do not want to set up any kind of start kicker for that kind of pressure.
Okay. And the other question that I have, the Dolphins. I mean, Tannehill goes down. The defense came together at the end of last season. And Tannehill really elevated his game the second half of last season to get them to the playoffs. He's down. He's got an ACL tear. He's ACL surgery. He's done for the year. They signed Jay Cutler, which the move baffles me, is signing Jay Cutler. I don't understand what you benefit from that.
It's like you get Jay Cutler because you don't want Ryan Tannehill's backup. Jay Cutler is a starter in the NFL, but the team that he was on didn't appreciate him, nor did any other team want to trade for him, so he just copped out, retired, wanted to do a broadcasting gig, make some decent money, just feed off that for a little bit. But you want to get a Jay Cutler in there after a guy like Ryan Tannehill goes down because you want to keep the same or equivalent impact that a Ryan Tannehill brings to the field. And the Dolphins could compete easily. I mean, James sees them twice a year. I know you don't like playing their defense. Their defense is a bunch of animals, and their offense is really just predicated on Ryan Tannehill making plays. Now you get a Jay Cutler who can sling it, like really sling it to guys like Jarvis Landry. Oh man, you want you want a guy who can maintain. You don't want to drop off. When you're the Miami Dolphins and you're in a compete now situation, you don't want to drop off.
Yeah, I agree. Also, like I think Matt Moore was decent when he came in last year, but I agree. Like Jay Cutler, when he's playing, when he actually gives a crap about the team he's playing for, which in this case he does because he really likes playing for Gase, which is why the only reason really he came back was because he asked him to.
Yeah.
So when he cares about the team he's playing for, I don't think he cared about the Bears team that he was playing for, which is signified by the fact that he retired after no pick up. He's like, okay, you know what? I'm not going back to the Bears, so screw this. I'm out. So he comes to a team, a unit that he wants to play for, that he wants to care about, and maybe you get Jay Cutler like he was when everyone was talking about him having, a high ceiling and so much potential, and when he first came to the Bears, having some really good games with them. So I think the Dolphins, it's a weird situation, right? Because the Dolphins are in a division that the Patriots are going to run away with. I'm not going to mince words here. They're going to run away with the division, especially after what the Bills did. We'll get to that in a second. James knows. But yeah, that division is really tough, and I think there's a lot of good teams in the AFC this year. So I'm not saying they can't make the playoffs as the wild card. They're not winning the division, so they're gonna have to get the wild card. If Jay Cutler returns to form, I do think the Dolphins can be competitive. Maybe go 10-6 and have a playoff spot.
So when you say when Jay Cutler returns to the form, here's something that I found interesting. It's just a random thing that I came across, and I decided to read into it. So Jay Cutler was drafted in 2006. So since
2000 what?
2006 was when Jay Cutler was drafted. So since Jay Cutler was drafted, he has finished in the top 3 in most interceptions thrown 3 times since he was drafted. 2008 he was second, 2009 he threw the most, and 2014 he was the second most intercepted quarterback. The Dolphins organization, since he was drafted, has only had 1 quarterback in the top 5, and that was Chad Henne in 2010, who finished 4th. So the Dolphins have never really historically had an issue with interceptions. Their offense has been pretty, they usually control the ball pretty well. They don't have a lot of turnovers. They just, like you said, they've never had a quarterback that's been able to sling the ball down the field. The problem with slinging it down the field is you let yourself up more interceptions.
You said from 2006?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he has some really bad interception years in the time. He threw 26 in 2009. That was the spike. But in the last couple of years with the Bears, he has not played bad football. 2015, he had almost 3,700 yards and 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, but a 92 quarterback rating, which is not bad at all. 2014, he had 3,900 yards and 28 touchdowns and 18 interceptions, still staying with that, minus 10, plus 10, whatever you want to look at it as, margin. And then, obviously last year he had the injury, and then he tried to come back, and he threw more interceptions than touchdowns, only just barely got over 1,000 yards, passing one of the worst quarterbacks of last year, just looking at strictly stats from 2016. But if he returns to maybe 2014 Jay Cutler, where he had 28 touchdowns and 18 picks and almost 4,000 yards, I can't see a reason why he would he'd probably have the same kind of stats as Tannehill would have had during the season.
Yeah, I can see that. And like I said, the other nice thing about that team is their defense came on last year. They might not have any noticeable players that pop off the chart for us, any people that we can name off the top of our heads maybe, but collectively that unit pulled it together towards the end of last season. They just couldn't get past, the playoffs.
Yeah, well, as Zach said, they're a scrappy unit, and they will come after you no matter, how much better, player-wise you are than them. They'll come after you every single time, which is why they kind of broke through. They upset some teams down the stretch and made the playoffs last year.
Mm-hmm.
So do they make the playoffs this year, yes or no?
It's very dependent on Jay Cutler.
I think Cameron Wake alone can win you some games. That dude is like if Von Miller had a big brother, honestly. But I think they'll go 9-7 and miss.
I was actually about to say 9-7, probably miss because the AFC has a lot of competitive teams.
They're gonna go 7-9 and miss.
Wow. James has no faith in Jay Cutler.
Patriots fan.
I was hoping he'd say
Sorry,
7 and 9 and make. That'd been funny.
They have really no offense right now. Tannehill was their spark.
I said a lot depends on Jay Cutler being better than he was last year. So I guess it'll just be one of those we'll see things. But I think 9-7 or 8-8 is probably a good record for prediction right now for them.
I'm gonna go 10-6 and make, and here's why: the Bills have tanked. If the Bills win 2 games this season, I'll be surprised. So that's 2 easy wins right there. The Jets. Do we really think the Jets are going to be competitive this year? Probably not. If the Dolphins are better than the Jets on paper, whether they play that way or not is different. But
the Dolphins are the second best team in that division for
Yeah.
sure. But
And here's the thing, and I'm pretty sure James over there can admit to this. The Dolphins have been known to steal a game away from New England on occasion. They didn't last year, I don't think. Did they beat y'all last year?
Nope.
Yeah. But they didn't last year, but they've been known to steal a game or two on them on occasion. If they can manage one, that puts them what? 5-1? I mean, if they split with the Jets, they split with New England, and they sweep the Bills. That puts them at what, 4-2? All you got to do then is go 6-4 in the other games, and you're sitting at 10-6.
Looking at their schedule, it doesn't look too favorable. They have to play the Saints, the Titans, the Bucks, the Ravens in Baltimore, the Raiders, the Panthers, the Patriots. Well, they have to play the Patriots in the division. They have to play the Broncos. They have to play the Chiefs.
Okay.
So they have to play the
that's
AFC
brutal.
West.
Yeah.
That's probably 4 L's.
Yeah, that could
Yeah.
probably be 4 L's actually. Yeah, that probably kind of. Okay, yeah. Knowing that now, I think 7-9 might be, or 9-7 might be the best.
Told you guys.
Best I'll do. But
I think 9-7, assuming that Jay Cutler plays, averagely. I guess is that even a word?
Mediocre.
Yeah, if he plays on par, they can go 9-7.
so I guess the biggest story coming out of recently, this past weekend, Zeke Elliot. What in the hell are we gonna do about Ezekiel? What is the NFL going to do about Ezekiel Elliott? I just that whole
Well, there's
entire
2 things that happen. Either, well, one, this is a star player in the league. He had a phenomenal rookie year, probably the best running back last year. They're either going to have 1 or 2 solutions. Either he did it, one of 3. Either he did it, and they give him the proper punishment. Either he didn't do it, and they give him a small punishment, or he didn't do it, and they give him a big punishment. And what happens on that third situation is that people are going to speculate more and more that Roger Goodell has too much power in this league, and they're going to try to take away from his power, which I think should happen. He should not have dictator-like power over what a player makes because the players don't get paid for the games they're suspended. He's essentially controlling their income every single game that he suspends them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think Goodell has way too much power, and as evidence of that is literally written in the NFL personal conduct policy that he is judge, jury, and executioner for the things. It says when an investigation leads the commissioner to believe that a player may have violated the personal conduct policy by committing any of the content identified above, he may act where the circumstances and evidence warrant doing so. This decision will not reflect a finding of guilt or innocence and will not be guided by the same legal standards and considerations that would apply in a criminal trial. Basically saying Goodell is above a criminal trial as far as being in the NFL goes. He's the king of the castle here.
I mean, look at the long list of who he's wronged. He did Tom Brady. He did Adrian Peterson. He did Ray Rice. He has free reign to do whatever he wants as long as he thinks in his mind that he can justify it.
Yeah, for sure. The thing about Ezekiel Elliott, he's a star player right now. I know he's his second year, but it's safe to say he's pretty much a star player on the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys are probably one of the biggest fan bases in the United States right now. As much as it pains me to say that, they're probably up there, probably top 3 biggest fan bases in the country right now. And Roger Goodell loves his forward-facing, perfect picture NFL. And when you join the NFL and you're one of these star players, you're expected to be the outward-facing, not actually goody two-shoes, but the prime example of how to behave in public and setting an example for everyone else.
You got to be a model player. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what Goodell expects from these star players, and that includes Zeke Elliot as of right now. So when he was even accused of this, Goodell didn't like one of his star players, destroying his perfect face of his NFL. So he came down really hard on him. And you remember the punter? I forget his name now. That was
Josh Brown.
Yeah, Josh Brown, who was accused and then he admitted to being involved in domestic violence, and he only got suspended for 1 game.
He had a diary, for God's sakes, of what he did.
Exactly, and how is that guy not banned for 6 games? How is that guy not banned for 16 games?
How's he not banned for life?
And then obviously the Giants cut him, and no one wants him, so he's kind of out of the league anyway. So, but it's the two-faced ways of Roger Goodell, right? Because you got the star player Zeke Elliot, who is one of the faces of the NFL at this point in time. Then you have Josh Brown, who's a punter. No one really cares about punters. No one looks at punters for, to put on the front of magazines and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it's easily a double standard.
It's a complete double standard by Roger Goodell. That's exactly my point. So,
and my big issue with this that I can't understand is the legal system flat out said we don't have the evidence. The accuser cannot keep her story straight. And Roger Goodell goes on here and says that, he has all these pictures and videos, and Zeke Elliott's defense did not help him at all. Did y'all hear what he said? I can't find it written down, but I was watching ESPN the other day, and ESPN was talking about it. His defense attorney said that perhaps she got the bruises by running into multiple tables, end quote. Do what?
I'd laugh at that. I remember seeing that too.
What? That, amazing. You just buried Ezekiel Elliott. You just buried your defense. I would have fired him from the moment. But, Roger Goodell says, we've got pictures, we've got video evidence, and a lot of people have been bringing up his lapse of character recently. He got accused for punching that DJ. There was a St. Patrick's Day video where he was pulling down that girl's shirt. The problem with that incident is they were found later on together. She even admitted that it was a joke. They were playing around together. She messed with him. He messed with her. There was just a video running that time. So, but Roger Goodell kind of hurt himself because Roger Goodell said, we didn't include that. We didn't include those incidences in this decision. This decision was solely based off of his domestic violence accusation. So, all the evidence that we've seen leads to those two issues. We've seen nothing that villainizes or confirms that Ezekiel Elliott did any of this. But he says he has it. I want to see the evidence so I can determine if, is this 6-game ban justifiable? Because I don't think it is. And if Roger Goodell wants to set some type of precedent, then by all means.
I understand what you're saying. Kind of like what I was saying with the double standard here. Goodell knows that Zeke is a very popular player. Just to be accused of this stuff is one of the 7 deadly sins to Roger Goodell. Mm-hmm. So he's going to come down super hard on a player like Ezekiel Elliott. If another punter did something like this or got caught up in these domestic assault charges and stuff, he probably wouldn't be banned at all or suspended 1 game like Josh Brown was. So it's just definitely a double standard, and it needs to stop. And Goodell definitely needs to have less power.
Absolutely,
the NFL is way too big for one man to be judge, jury, and executioner for every single conduct policy violation that comes up.
Good, Tom Brady.
So do y'all think this suspension is going to get reduced?
Reduced, yes. Taken away completely, no. Roger Goodell is never going to stand for that.
Max.
Really?
I'm going to say 3.
I think it's going to go down to 4. I think it's going to go down to 4 because and here's the issue. So I just stumbled upon this. This was actually on the Dallas Cowboys page actually that Ezekiel Elliott could reportedly could face further discipline for that July bar incident that I mentioned. That could get interesting if they're actually making it a separate incident.
Yeah, they're gonna try to stack it on him because he's Ezekiel Elliott.
Precisely.
That could
So
be
he needs to
interesting.
get a good lawyer team together, like ASAP, because he needs to figure this out. He needs to get a defense ready for himself.
Yeah.
Turtle show mode, because Goodell's trying to attack him right now.
Goodell has to save face in the end.
Yep.
He always wins in the end, so we'll see how it turns out this time.
So flipping over sports here for a minute, unless you had anything to add, Zach
No, that's all.
or James.
Hold on, Eric, can I just talk about one more thing NFL related?
Mhm.
There's been a lot of news lately. I just want to talk about the latest trade that may have indicated that the Bills are nuking the organization. They're taking the nuclear option. Sammy Watkins, face of a franchise, headed to LA. Jared Goff definitely has a new number one target. So, trying to open the floor here. What does this mean for the LA Rams? Are they back to relevancy, or are they going to go 8-8 again?
8-8.
8-8, the dream. Okay, no, seriously.
Yeah. One receiver's not going to save it. Jared Goff did not impress me one bit last year. I know he was a rookie. I know he literally had bumpkins to throw to. Now he has someone, but Sammy Watkins can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
And Jared Goff hasn't shown me that he can manage a football team. You know, you don't have to light the world's up stat-wise. Just manage the game. And he hasn't shown me that he can.
What division do they play in?
The NFC West.
with the Seahawks.
Exactly.
They just went from one division, or he just went from one division where he wasn't beating the Patriots to another division where he's not beating Russell Wilson. So, good luck.
Yeah, and then, like, what does this mean for the Bills, though? Did they absolutely, press the restart button here? Or Jordan Matthews obviously is not the biggest prize in the world for this trade.
They're doing this because they know Brady's on his last ride, so he has 1 or 2 more years left, and they want to ride it out and see what they can get out of this because you're not going to beat Brady. You're not going to beat Belichick and Brady. So what the Bills are thinking, like, hey, we're not committing to Tyrod either. We're going to see what we can get out of this.
I feel bad for him because he re-signed with the Buffalo Bills expecting them to build a team around him, and instead they're destroying it.
I mean, you could tell that when they traded away Kiko Alonso. That dude was good when he was with the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of where the restart button kind of began. I don't know if Watkins realized his days were probably numbered at that point, or if they were going to keep him around as like a franchise starter, but obviously not. Now he's over in Los Angeles. So.
Speaking of LA, flipping sports here, the Dodgers are absolutely destroying Major League Baseball. So, right now, the Dodgers are leading the world in ERA, like runs against combined. They have only allowed 390 runs. The next lowest is Cleveland with 445. That is insane. This late in the season. They currently have a 709 win percentage. Insane for this late in the season. Throwing some numbers out here. The 1906 Cubs have the best winning percentage mark of MLB baseball ever at a 763 mark. In order for the Dodgers to beat them, they have to go an insane 41-4 to finish the season. That's to tie the 763 mark. You would say it's impossible. But they had a stretch of 50 games where they went 47-3.
Yeah, no, the Dodgers are absolutely ridiculous. If you ask me, they have one of the best starting lineups probably in the last 10 years in the MLB I've seen. They're absolutely ridiculous, but it seems like it happens to every sport, and I feel like I know Zach and James don't watch the most baseball in the world, but trying to compare it to a sport you guys do know about, basketball, they're kind of being the Warriors of the year when they they had like the record-setting record in the regular season, but then they lost in the finals, and everyone obviously made jokes about that. So if you ask me, though, I feel like the MLB season is so damn long that having a record like this is just absolutely unheard of, and I think it means a lot more in baseball than it does in basketball, just an opinion. But if they don't win the World Series, I don't know. I guess you can keep the statistics, but if you don't get the hardware, it's the same in every professional sport. It doesn't really mean much in the long run.
I agree, but here's the thing. So the 1906 Cubs went 116-36. Obviously, there was 10 fewer games played back then. They did not win the World Series. The 2001 Seattle Mariners finished 116-46. Now that is a record that the Dodgers can match, and all they have to do is go a meager 34-11 to beat that, and they can actually easily do that. And anyone that knows the Yankees know for a fact that the Seattle Mariners did not win the World Series in 2001. The Yankees won because the Yankees took them out in the ALCS. But we still talk about the 2001 Seattle Mariners being one of the best baseball teams of all time.
That's because, like I said, the season is so long. I feel like we'll talk about the Warriors' dominance. Obviously, they won a championship this year, but everyone is gonna talk about the championship season, which they had a really good record as well. But no one's really gonna talk about the season where they blew the 3-1 lead.
Yeah.
So everyone's talking about the championship, which is just the nature of professional sports.
Winners write history.
Exactly. The history is written by the victor. Winners write history. Yeah, I mean, I think the Dodgers are a very, very good baseball team. There's no reason they shouldn't win the World Series, but weird things happen in the playoffs, especially when you have that 7-game set. I know a team could take them out for sure, and if a team takes them out, I don't know. It'll be interesting. Like everything on paper says they win the World Series, but same thing with the 2001 Mariners, like you were saying. Same thing with the Warriors. Weird things happen in the playoffs. Weird things happen in the championship. So
2007 Patriots.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the Cubs.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I forgot about that. The Patriots undefeated season. People peg that as the season the Patriots fans want to forget about. Yet they went undefeated in the regular season. And they lost in the Super Bowl.
18-0.
So that season's pretty much dead, though. Patriots, even though that was probably, if you just look at straight up wins, that was the best season the Patriots have had in the 2000s.
Easily.
So it's just weird, and it's like championships mean so much in today's sports that you gotta win. You gotta win. So hopefully the Dodgers know that, and if they can keep this streak going straight into the playoffs, they got a ridiculous top 3 pitching lineup with Kershaw, Darvish, and Wood.
Absolutely disgusting, man.
It's gonna destroy in the playoffs if they get that thing going there. So like I said, it just depends. Like I think they can make a run at this thing, but there are a lot of good teams in the NL with the Diamondbacks, the Rockies, the Nationals. Not to toot my own team's horn, but if Harper comes back by then, if Harper comes back by then, I think the Nationals and the Dodgers could be steamrolling towards one of the most exciting NLCSs in recent memory.
And I'm glad you mentioned him. So, first of all, by now, I'm sure everyone has seen the injury. That was by far one of the nastiest things I have ever seen in my entire life. Yet he did not tear a single ligament whatsoever.
Somebody's never seen Kevin Ware.
Well, yeah, it's true. That's true. But I mean that watching that injury hurt me. And usually when I see an injury that hurts me, I expect him to be done. The Teddy Bridgewater injury hurt me.
Yeah, I mean, did you see the Theismann video from when he got his career ended?
Exactly.
I mean,
but these are career-ending injuries. This man's knee bent in an opposite direction, and he's got a bone bruise. Like, what ligaments does this man have?
Professional athletes, man.
Yeah, he's
Look at Adrian Peterson the year after he just tore his entire knee. He broke records.
Yeah, I think it really speaks towards how in shape and how conditioned these athletes really are. And no one really realizes that, especially on the game of baseball. It is a little slower than some of the other major sports. But these athletes are just as strong, and they train just as hard as other athletes in major sports. It's a long season, a lot of traveling, long games. So Bryce Harper is really probably one of the most conditioned and in shape players in the National League. He has a very strict workout schedule and workout regimen. And team doctors, obviously professional team doctors, are really good as well. So, I mean, I expected him. It looked really bad. I thought he tore something for sure, but obviously not. I mean, it would be amazing to see him back on the Nationals in the playoffs. I say that as a fan.
Do you think the Nationals are okay without him, though? I mean, Daniel Murphy's batting .328, 19 home runs, 77 RBIs. Zimmerman batting .301, 22 home runs, 76 RBIs. Rendon is batting .301. I mean, most teams would kill to have one player batting .300. The Nationals had 4.
Yeah, we're good for the rest of the regular season. We don't need him. He can rest up. If he can make it back for the playoffs, we'll need him for the playoff run since he is obviously. I mean, the last few years when the Nationals made the playoffs, he was the only player that decided to show up. So I think we need him for the playoff run. He can rest up until then. We have a 17-game lead or something like that on the division. You know, the division lead is not going anywhere. You know, we're gonna make the playoffs. I would like Bryce Harper to rest up, leave it to his teammates, and come back for a playoff run.
What do you think, Zach? I know you don't watch too much baseball, but
I think it's amazing that the first year that the Nats have an offense to back up that pitching staff, Bryce Harper gets injured. That's just tragic. But I mean, it is great. Like watching that injury, I've tore my ACL myself, and that was brutal, man. Watching a knee bend like that, it's not meant to bend like that. But like Tom spoke to, it's just an insane training regimen to be in that good of shape for it just to be a bone bruise, something minor, something that you can just have it rest and get off of it for a few days and have it come back to good in a few weeks. I think he should rest up for the most of the rest of the season. He should come back with like a couple weeks left to get the feel for the game before the postseason. That way he can start hitting his stride for the postseason.
anything to add, James?
That guy is some athlete. I think the Nets are gonna go somewhere in the playoffs. I think they're gonna make it.
So I really. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think they're gonna make it to his championship, but I don't think they're gonna make it to World Series.
The pennant.
The pennant's
I would
what
love
matters.
to say that the Nationals are going to win it. Obviously, I would love to say that, but Dodgers are obviously the best team in the MLB right now. If they stay hot, we're in for a very exciting National League Championship Series, but I don't think the Nationals will have it.
I want to see a Houston Dodgers World Series. I think that'd be exciting. Top pitching versus top offense. You know how much I love offense.
The Astros remind me a lot of the the Royals from that one year, and then the Indians from last year. Like no one really knows where they came from, but they have like the most solid lineup in the MLB this year.
Any true baseball fan knows where the Houston Astros came from. They've been working on this for 5 years now.
And it finally came together this year, just like the Indians and the Royals, and only one of those teams won a World Series. So we'll see if it's win-loss-win for teams like that.
Well, I think that's all we got for today. Really hope you guys enjoyed this first podcast. We're going to be doing this every 2 weeks. I think we were talking about doing the next one. We're probably going to be breaking down the divisions for football. Might throw a couple baseball stories in there. I know everyone's kind of curious what's going on with the Kyrie Irving situation. Anyone else got anything to add before we sign off?
Duke picked up a top recruit today. Love it. LOVE, love it.
Kyrie Irving made a mistake.
Brady is 40 and still gonna win MVP.
That's actually a really good hot take there. Actually, that would be something.
Old strategy, Cotton. See if it pays off for him.
Alrighty, guys. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Peace.